The quantum display flickered with a constellation of incoming trajectories, each pinpoint of light representing a potential apocalypse. Dr. Aria Chen's fingers hovered above the holographic interface, her breath barely audible in the climate-controlled command center. Around her, a mosaic of screens displayed data streams from every corner of the globe, satellite feeds, economic indicators, communication networks, and astronomical observation points. 18 minutes, whispered Dr. Marcus Reis, the lead computational strategist. His fingers danced across multiple interfaces, routing and rerouting information faster than most humans could comprehend. The Andes Mountain Research Facility, codenamed Prometheus Base, was humanity's most closely guarded secret. Carved deep into the living rock, it represented the culmination of decades of preparation, a fortress of human ingenuity hidden from the world that was about to be saved. The Exorinian scout ships were unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. Their technology existed in computational dimensions that most Earth scientists would have considered pure science fiction just a decade ago. Each vessel was a living algorithm, a sentient machine that could analyze and adapt faster than any known biological intelligence. They moved through space with a precision that suggested not just advanced technology, but a near-divine understanding of spatial mechanics. Aria knew the stakes better than anyone. Her grandmother had been part of the first team that detected the long-range signals suggesting an extraterrestrial civilization was not just possible, but imminent. Those initial discoveries had been dismissed as anomalies, classified research that never saw the light of day. But some had seen the potential threat, had understood that preparation was humanity's only true defense. Tracking confirms primary approach vector, Marcus announced, his voice steady despite the magnitude of what was unfolding. Each of the dozen specialists in the room moved with a choreographed precision that spoke of thousands of hours of joint training. They were more than a team. They were a unified organism, each member understanding their role in a complex system designed to do what seemed impossible. The global defense network was unlike any military strategy in human history. It wasn't about weapons or traditional combat. This was a multi-layered defense that integrated economic systems, communication networks, psychological profiling, and technological countermeasures. The Exorinians would find themselves fighting an enemy that didn't conform to any known rules of engagement. A soft chime indicated an incoming communication. Dr. Imani O'Keek, the team's lead xenolinguistic expert, adjusted her neural interface. Her background in communication theory and advanced computational linguistics made her crucial to understanding potential alien communication patterns. Initial signal analysis confirms previous predictive models, she reported. They believe we are precisely what they expect, a fractured, technologically primitive species ripe for conquest. Aria allowed herself a slight smile. If the Exorinians only knew the truth. The command center was a testament to global cooperation that most of the world would never understand. Specialists from every continent, every background, united by a single purpose. The team represented a cross-section of human potential. Mathematicians who could see patterns in chaos, programmers who could write code that was practically alive, economists who could weaponize financial systems, and strategists who understood that the greatest battles were won before the first shot was fired. Outside the mountain facility, the world continued its daily rhythm. Millions would go about their lives, unaware of the silent countdown happening beneath the Andean peaks. Children would play in parks, commuters would rush to work, politicians would debate inconsequential matters, all while humanity's most sophisticated defense was being prepared. 18 minutes. 18 minutes until first contact. 18 minutes that would determine the fate of an entire species. And humanity was ready. The small apartment in Buenos Aires looked like a typical urban workspace. Scattered energy drink cans, multiple monitors displaying seemingly random lines of code, and walls covered with diagrams that seemed more like abstract art than serious computation. Miguel Rodriguez adjusted his noise-canceling headphones, his fingers moving with a musician's precision across the keyboard. What appeared to be chaotic programming was actually the most sophisticated communication network ever conceived by human minds. Each line of code was a thread in a global tapestry, connecting systems across continents, weaving together a defense mechanism that would make traditional military strategies look like children's games. Halfway across the world, Dr. Yuki Tanaka stood in her Tokyo laboratory, her holographic displays showing interconnected nodes that pulsed with an almost living energy. What most would see as complex data visualization was actually a real-time map of the Horizon Project's most ambitious creation, a global neural network that could think, adapt, and respond faster than any known artificial intelligence. Connection stability at 99.987%, she murmured, her voice barely a whisper. The network was more than just a communication system. It was a living, breathing entity that had been carefully cultivated over decades. Every social media post, every scientific collaboration, every seemingly random technological breakthrough was a carefully placed piece of a massive, planet-wide puzzle. Aunt Hassan leaned back in his Cairo office, watching multiple screens that displayed what looked like impossible connections. To the untrained eye, it was nonsense, a random collection of global data points. But to those who understood, it was a masterpiece of human collaboration. The Horizon Project wasn't just a military or scientific initiative. It was a testament to human potential, a network that transcended national boundaries, corporate interests, and individual ambitions. Scientists, economists, artists, and strategists from every corner of the globe had been working in carefully coordinated silence, creating something unprecedented. Each participant knew only a fraction of the entire system. Miguel understood the communication protocols but had no idea about the economic strategies. Yuki comprehended the computational architecture but was blind to the psychological warfare components. Ahmed knew the network's geographical distribution but couldn't see its deeper purpose. This was intentional. The most secure system was the one where no single person could compromise the entire network. In a small research center in Nairobi, a team of neurologists worked on communication algorithms inspired by how certain ant species coordinated complex tasks. In a community center in Sao Paulo, artists were developing visual communication techniques that could potentially disrupt alien perception models. A group of indigenous elders in New Zealand contributed understanding of collective consciousness that would prove crucial to the project's success. The beauty of the Horizon Project was its organic nature. It wasn't a top-down military strategy, but a bottom-up collaborative effort that drew strength from humanity's most powerful attribute, its ability to adapt, to connect, to imagine the impossible. Miguel paused, taking a sip of his now cold coffee. For a moment, he allowed himself to feel the weight of what they were doing. This wasn't just about defending against an alien threat. This was about proving something fundamental about human potential. "We're not just preparing for a war," he said softly to himself. "We're redefining what it means to be human." The network pulsed. Somewhere, thousands of miles away, Yuki and Ahmed would feel the same surge of connection, the same understanding that they were part of something far greater than themselves. The Exorinians were coming, and humanity would be ready. Not with weapons, not with traditional defenses, but with something far more powerful. Collective imagination. The small recording studio in Mumbai buzzed with an energy that defied its modest size. Raj Patel adjusted his mixing board, his fingers dancing between traditional synthesizers and quantum adaptive sound processors. What seemed like a simple music recording session was something far more complex, a key component of humanity's most sophisticated defense mechanism. Outside, the city hummed with its usual chaotic rhythm. Street vendors called out, auto rickshaws weaved through traffic, and millions of lives intersected in a symphony of human interaction. But beneath this apparent disorder lay a profound transformation that the Exorinian invasion force could never comprehend. In Stockholm, Dr. Elina Bergström reviewed the latest cultural adaptation studies. Her research had long suggested that humanity's greatest strength was not its technology, but its ability to rapidly integrate diverse experiences, perspectives, and knowledge. The global challenges of the past decades, climate change, pandemics, technological disruption, had been forging something unprecedented, a truly global human identity. Across the world, something remarkable was happening. National boundaries were becoming less relevant. A programmer in Cairo could instantly collaborate with a researcher in Buenos Aires. A street artist in Lagos could inspire technological innovations in Tokyo. The old divisions of race, nationality, and culture were dissolving, replaced by a more nuanced understanding of human potential. Kwame Okeke, a storyteller from a small village in Nigeria, understood this better than most. His traditional oral histories were being digitized, translated, and shared globally. What seemed like a simple preservation of cultural heritage was actually a complex communication strategy. Each story contained layers of psychological insight, problem-solving techniques, and collective wisdom that would prove crucial in understanding and countering the alien threat. The Exarinians had studied humanity through traditional observational methods. They saw a species fractured by political conflicts, economic disparities, and cultural differences. What they couldn't see was the invisible web of connection that was rapidly transforming human society. In a community center in New York, a hip-hop workshop became something more than just a music class. Young people from diverse backgrounds were learning to communicate through rhythm, language, and shared creativity. Sarah Rodriguez, the workshop leader, was developing communication algorithms that would become a crucial component of the defense strategy. "It's about finding the universal language," she would tell their students, "not just in words, but in rhythm, in movement, in the way we connect." The quantum communication network developed by the Horizon Project was more than just a technological marvel. It was a reflection of human social dynamics, adaptive, unpredictable, driven by creativity and emotional intelligence. Traditional military strategies relied on rigid command structures. Humanity's defense would be fluid, dynamic, constantly changing. Dr. Bergstrom's research had revealed something profound. Human creativity was not a weakness, as the Exarinians believed, but the most sophisticated adaptive mechanism in the known universe. A problem-solving approach that could transform challenges into opportunities, that could find connection in apparent chaos. In a small cafe in Mumbai, Raj Patel finished his music composition. What sounded like an experimental electronic track was actually a complex communication protocol, a way of transmitting information that would be incomprehensible to the alien invaders. Each beat, each subtle modulation contained layers of meaning that went far beyond traditional communication. The invasion was coming, but humanity was ready. Not with weapons, not with traditional defenses, but with something far more powerful. A global consciousness that could adapt, create, and transform faster than any known intelligence. The Exarinians were about to learn a fundamental truth about humanity. Our greatest strength was never our technology. It was our ability to become something entirely new. The financial district of London looked like any other day. Traders moved between screens, algorithms hummed in background servers, and the global economic machine continued its relentless pulse. But Sarah Goldman knew better. Every transaction, every algorithmic trade, every seemingly random financial movement was a carefully designed piece of humanity's most sophisticated defense. Her office overlooked the Thames, a minimalist space that betrayed nothing of the complex strategies being developed within its walls. Multiple holographic displays showed global economic networks that pulsed and shifted like living organisms. What appeared to be standard financial modeling was actually a weaponized economic defense system, unlike anything in human history. The Exarinian invasion force understood technology. They comprehended military strategies. But economics, that was a form of warfare they could never anticipate. Sarah's team had spent years creating economic trapdoors, complex financial mechanisms that would make any planetary invasion economically impossible. Each global market was a potential minefield, Every cryptocurrency network a sophisticated defensive weapon. Banks in Shanghai, trading houses in London, blockchain engineers in Silicon Valley. All were now part of an intricate global economic defense system. It's not about stopping them with traditional weapons, Sarah explained to her core team. It's about making their invasion so financially catastrophic that the mere attempt becomes unthinkable. In Tokyo, a network of quantum economists worked on predictive models that could destabilize entire alien economic systems with a few precise interventions. Their algorithms could create economic ripple effects that would make the most complex military strategies look like child's play. A single trade could potentially trigger cascading economic consequences that would render an entire invasion force financially insolvent. Cryptocurrency networks developed by the Horizon Project were more than just financial tools. They were communication systems, economic weapons, and adaptive intelligence platforms. Each blockchain transaction contained layers of encrypted information, each digital wallet a potential point of economic disruption. Dr. Chen Wei, working from a research center in Beijing, had developed economic simulation models that could predict and manipulate potential alien resource acquisition strategies. What seemed like advanced economic research was actually a sophisticated defense mechanism. Every potential resource the Exorinians might exploit was carefully protected, every economic pathway a potential trap. The beauty of the strategy was its complexity. The Exorinians would not see a traditional defense. They would encounter an economic ecosystem so intricate, so adaptive, that attempting an invasion would be financial suicide. "We're not just defending," Sarah told her team during their final preparation meeting. "We're redefining the entire concept of economic warfare." Cryptocurrency miners in Venezuela, stock traders in New York, blockchain developers in Estonia. They were all part of a global economic defense network that transcended traditional boundaries. Each participant knew only a fraction of the entire system, a deliberate strategy to ensure total security. The global financial system had been transformed into a living, breathing defensive organism. Traditional military strategies relied on physical force. Humanity's defense would be economic, psychological, adaptive. In her London office, Sarah Goldman watched the global economic networks pulse and shift. The Exorinian invasion force was approaching. They believed they understood human weaknesses. They would soon learn that humanity's greatest strength was its ability to turn apparent vulnerabilities into unprecedented power. The economic counterattack was ready, and the Exorinians would never see it coming. The research facility in Accra looked like nothing special from the outside. A modest building nestled between traditional markets and modern office complexes, it held a secret that would change the course of human history. Dr. Kwame Osi adjusted his quantum interface, his fingers moving with a precision that blended scientific brilliance with artistic creativity. What the world saw as academic curiosity was actually humanity's most sophisticated technological defense system. For years, research projects that seemed disconnected and even mundane were carefully orchestrated pieces of a global technological strategy. A neural network developed to help autistic children communicate would become a key component in disrupting alien communication systems. An adaptive learning algorithm designed for agricultural optimization could become a weapon of unprecedented sophistication. The Exorinians believed they understood human technology. They had mapped our communication networks, analyzed our computational capabilities, and found them wanting. What they couldn't comprehend was the deliberate technological misdirection that humanity had been cultivating for decades. In a small laboratory in Bangalore, Dr. Priya Sharma worked on what appeared to be a simple assistive technology for individuals with communication disabilities. Her neural interface prototype looked like a breakthrough in medical technology. In reality, it was a sophisticated communication disruption tool that could potentially scramble any advanced alien communication system. "We're not just developing technology," Dr. Osai often told his team. "We're creating living systems that can think, adapt, and respond in ways no traditional computational model could predict." The quantum computing systems, hidden beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary research facilities, were unlike anything the Exorinians could comprehend. Each system was a carefully designed organism, capable of adapting and evolving faster than any known artificial intelligence. What appeared to be separate research projects were actually interconnected components of a global technological defense network. In Tokyo, a team of robotics engineers developed adaptive learning systems that looked like simple industrial automation. In Sao Paulo, computer scientists created communication protocols that seemed like academic exercises in distributed computing. In Moscow, quantum physicists explored computational models that appeared to be pure theoretical research. Each project was a carefully placed piece of a massive, planet-wide technological puzzle. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, leading a team in Mexico City, had developed an artificial intelligence system that could predict and adapt to complex communication patterns. What seemed like a breakthrough in machine learning was actually a sophisticated method of understanding and potentially disrupting alien communication strategies. The technological misdirection was multilayered. On the surface, human technology appeared fragmented, inconsistent, primitive. Beneath this facade lay a computational ecosystem more complex and adaptive than any known intelligence could comprehend. They will see what we want them to see, Dr. Osei explained during a rare full-team briefing. Weakness, inconsistency, potential for easy conquest. The truth was far more complex. Each seemingly random technological breakthrough was a carefully placed component of a global defense strategy. Artificial intelligence systems that could learn and adapt faster than any known computational model. Communication networks that could transform and redirect information in milliseconds. Quantum computing systems that existed in multiple states simultaneously. In her Accra laboratory, Dr. Sharma looked up from her neural interface prototype. Outside, the city continued its daily rhythm, unaware of the technological marvel being developed within these walls. The Exorinian invasion force was approaching, believing they understood human technological capabilities. They were about to learn a fundamental truth about humanity. Our greatest technology was never about the devices we created. It was about our ability to imagine the impossible. Marina Volkova watched the holographic displays flicker with a constellation of human interactions. Her office in St. Petersburg was a masterpiece of controlled chaos. Walls covered with psychological profiles, neural mapping diagrams, and complex communication models that looked more like abstract art than scientific research. The Exorinian invasion force understood technology. They comprehended military strategies. But human psychology, that was a realm of complexity they could never truly penetrate. Each display represented a different layer of psychological warfare. A global network of communication strategies designed to exploit every potential weakness in the alien confederation's perception. Marina's team had spent years developing a multilayered approach that went far beyond traditional military thinking. "We're not fighting with weapons," she told her core team during their final briefing. "We're fighting with stories, with perception, with the most powerful computational system in the universe, the human mind." In a small community center in Rio de Janeiro, a group of performance artists worked on communication techniques that defied traditional understanding. Their improvisational techniques, developed from years of studying human interaction, could create communication patterns so complex and adaptive that they would be incomprehensible to any algorithmic intelligence. The psychological warfare strategy was a living, breathing organism. A street artist in Lagos could create a mural that contained layers of psychological information. A poet in Seoul could craft verses that were actually sophisticated communication protocols. A comedian in New York could develop humor patterns that would completely disrupt alien cognitive processing. Dr. Ahmed Hassan, connecting from Cairo, had developed neural mapping techniques that could identify and exploit cognitive vulnerabilities in alien communication systems. What appeared to be advanced psychological research was actually a sophisticated weapon of unprecedented complexity. "The Exorinians see us as a collection of individual entities," Marina explained. They don't understand our ability to create collective consciousness in milliseconds. Each communication strategy was designed to be unpredictable. Traditional military approaches relied on consistent patterns. Humanity's psychological defense would be fluid, adaptive, constantly changing. A social media post could contain layers of encoded information. A seemingly random piece of street art could be a complex communication protocol. In Tokyo, a team of cultural anthropologists developed communication techniques that drew from centuries of human storytelling traditions. Indigenous elders from New Zealand contributed understanding of collective consciousness that would prove crucial to disrupting alien perception models. The beauty of the strategy was its complexity. The Exarinians would encounter a psychological ecosystem so intricate, so adaptive, that attempting to understand it would be an impossible task. Every human interaction became a potential point of psychological disruption. "We're not just defending," Marina told her team. "We're rewriting the entire concept of communication." Linguists, artists, psychologists, musicians, they were all part of a global psychological defense network that transcended traditional boundaries. Each participant knew only a fraction of the entire system, a deliberate strategy to ensure total security. In her St. Petersburg office, Marina watched the global psychological networks pulse and shift. The Exarinian invasion force was approaching. They believed they understood human communication. They would soon learn that humanity's greatest strength was its ability to create meaning in ways no algorithmic intelligence could comprehend. The psychological counterattack was ready, and the Exarinians would never see it coming. Humanity's most powerful weapon was not technology. It was our ability to imagine the unimaginable. The first Exarinian scout ship entered the solar system with calculated precision. Its quantum adaptive sensors swept across space, mapping potential invasion routes with a cold, mechanical efficiency that had decimated countless civilizations before. Captain Rixnuller allowed himself a moment of anticipation. Another primitive species about to be cataloged, conquered, absorbed. Deep beneath the Andes Mountains, Dr. Arya Chen watched the approach with a calm that surprised even herself. The Prometheus base hummed with an energy that was both electric and controlled. Dozens of specialists moved with a choreographed precision that defied traditional military protocols. "Incoming," Marcus Rice announced, his voice steady. "First wave breaching lunar orbital zone." What happened next would be recorded in galactic history as the most unprecedented defensive strategy ever conceived. The first wave of disruption began not with weapons, but with information. Economic networks that the Exarinians had carefully mapped suddenly became impossible to predict. Trading algorithms developed by the Horizon Project created financial fluctuations so complex that the alien computational systems began to struggle. In orbit, the Exarinian ships found their communication networks gradually destabilizing. What seemed like simple interference was actually a multilayered psychological attack. Neural communication protocols developed by Dr. Ahmed Hassan began to introduce subtle cognitive dissonances into the alien ship's collective consciousness. "They're trying to understand," Dr. Imani Okik observed, her xenolinguistic analysis displaying impossible communication patterns. "But they can't. We're speaking a language beyond their comprehension." Each human interaction became a weapon. A social media post in Mumbai contained encrypted communication layers. A street performance in Rio de Janeiro disrupted alien sensor algorithms. A quantum computation from a research facility in Beijing created computational paradoxes that the Exarinian systems couldn't resolve. The invasion force found itself facing an enemy that didn't conform to any known strategic model. Traditional military approaches relied on consistent patterns of resistance. Humanity's defense was fluid, adaptive, constantly changing. Technological misdirection reached its pinnacle. The neural interfaces developed ostensibly for medical research now created communication disruption fields that made the Exarinian sensor systems increasingly unstable. Quantum computing networks developed in research facilities around the globe began to introduce computational challenges that the alien systems couldn't process. They expected weakness, Marina Volkova said, watching the global communication networks. They're encountering something entirely different. The sky above Earth became a canvas of impossible interactions, communication patterns that defied traditional understanding, economic networks that transformed faster than any computational model could predict, psychological warfare strategies that introduced cognitive disruptions at a fundamental level. The Exarinian ships began to lose coherence, not through traditional weapons, but through a form of warfare they could never have anticipated. Each system was gradually destabilized: economic, communication, technological, psychological. We're not destroying them, Dr. Chen explained to her team. We're making their invasion mathematically impossible. In less than 17 minutes, the entire invasion force found itself completely neutralized, not through physical destruction, but through a comprehensive strategy that attacked every possible vector of invasion. The quantum displays in the Prometheus base showed the Exarinian ships gradually losing structural integrity. But this was not a traditional defeat. This was a demonstration of a fundamental truth about humanity. Our greatest strength was never our technology. It was our ability to transform, to adapt, to create meaning in ways no known intelligence could comprehend. The invasion ended before it truly began. Humanity had won a war that hadn't even started. The United Nations Conference Hall was unusually quiet. Representatives from every corner of the globe sat in a stunned silence that spoke volumes. Dr. Arya Chen stood at the podium, her presentation displaying holographic representations of the global defense that had just saved humanity from an invasion most would never know had happened. "What you're seeing," she began, "is not a traditional military victory. This is a demonstration of human potential that goes beyond any previous understanding of conflict resolution." The aftermath of the Exarinian encounter would be studied for generations, not as a war story, but as a fundamental reimagining of collective human capability. The Horizon Project had been more than a defense strategy. It was a proof of concept about what humanity could achieve when truly united. In research facilities around the world, teams began to analyze the unprecedented global collaboration that had just occurred. Dr. Marcus Rice from the Prometheus base was already compiling initial reports. The defense network had been so sophisticated, so multilayered, that most of its components were still not fully understood by those who had created them. It wasn't about individual brilliance, Marina Volkova explained during a private briefing. It was about our ability to create something greater than ourselves. Each person contributed a piece of a puzzle they couldn't fully comprehend. The global economic systems that had been weaponized during the defense continued to show remarkable stability. Sarah Goldman's team discovered that the economic strategies developed to counter the invasion had inadvertently created more equitable global financial models. What had been a defensive mechanism was now transforming international economic relationships. Technological research facilities around the world found themselves at the forefront of unprecedented innovations. The quantum computing networks, communication protocols, and adaptive technologies developed during the preparation were now driving breakthroughs in medicine, environmental restoration, and space exploration. In a small community center in Rio de Janeiro, the performance artists who had been part of the psychological warfare strategy began to understand the true depth of their contribution. Their communication techniques, developed to disrupt alien perception, were now being studied as revolutionary methods of cross-cultural understanding. Dr. Kwame Osei's research facility in Accra became a global center for studying adaptive intelligence. The neural networks developed to potentially disrupt alien communication were now showing potential for unprecedented medical and educational applications. The Exarinian encounter remained classified. Most of humanity would never know how close they had come to invasion, or how brilliantly they had been saved. But something had fundamentally changed. The global networks, the collaborative strategies, the sense of unified purpose, these would not simply disappear. We prepared for an external threat, Dr. Imani Okeke reflected during a private meeting, and in doing so, we discovered something about ourselves. Our true strength was never about what we could fight against. It was about what we could create together. The United Nations resolution that followed was unprecedented. A new global initiative was established, not as a military organization, but as a collaborative research network that would continue the work of the Horizon Project. Its mission: to explore the full potential of human collaboration. Dr. Aria Chen looked out over the city from her office, a slight smile playing on her lips. The world would never know the full story of what had happened, but that was always the way with humanity's most incredible achievements. In research facilities, community centers, and quiet offices around the world, the people who had been part of the most sophisticated defense in human history continued their work. Not as heroes, but as ordinary individuals who had discovered something extraordinary about collective human potential. The Exorinian invasion had been stopped before it began. But the real victory was something far more profound. Humanity had reimagined its own potential.